I gotta fix it. 1 sec. All right, there we go. There we go. How's everyone's night going? Excited to hack? Eric Cartman. Is that your real name? All right, I'm just gonna wait a few minutes, let people get in here. Yeah, I should just play like. I should just play like "Never Gonna Give You Up" while we're waiting for people. Okay. Okay, we'll wait exactly 4 minutes and 20 seconds before we get started. How's that sound? Oh, yes, I put this together in like less than an hour. Investors do love Comic Sans pitch decks. If you are looking to raise the maximum amount of capital possible, this is how you do it. So in this presentation, I'm going to give you all the power moves you guys need in order to raise millions of dollars. All right, I guess we might as well just get started for now, and then when people trickle in, they can trickle in. So, all right, welcome everyone. This is CS 420, how to sell, what they don't teach you in your CS classes. So, you know what they do teach you? They teach you things like functional programming, which, sure, maybe it's kind of useful, but you know how people get ahead in life, especially in their career? Sadly, a lot of it is people skills, communication skills, and sadly enough, playing politics. Now, I'm not going to teach you guys how to play politics. It's kind of fucked up, but I think communication skills and people skills are very, very key. Even if you're like trying to be purely technical, like you aspire to be a principal engineer or an architect of some sort, you still need very good communication skills if you want to make the big bucks. Why? Because you need to sell your work, and people need to know, what you're all about and why they should care. Because if they're not convinced as to why they should care, they're not going to care. So it's as straightforward as that. So let's get into it. So, all right. So who is talking right now? So my name's Calvin. I'm one of the co-founders of Hypotenuse Labs. Check us out, hypotenuse.ca. So we're a blockchain and ML consultancy. Almost all of us are from Waterloo. We're not like an outsourcing shop, so to speak, like how many shops are. Say we mostly cater to startups. So kind of like a lot of what I'm saying as well. It's very relevant for the earlier stage side of things. Right now we're about 15 people, so I would still consider us startup-y. So that's kind of like the more techie business side. My kind of like second career, I'm a touring metal drummer. Obviously not touring now for COVID reasons, but next year hoping to do a few. So that's on my radar. Yeah, and as I mentioned before, UW alum, studied CS and somehow graduated back in 2018. Don't know how I did that, but glad I did it. So there's that. Let's see. And interests, a few things I really like. As if it wasn't obvious enough, I'm interested in psychology and people. Hiring is something I'm like really interested in as well, like the HR side of things. Very, very interesting. Psychedelics, though I won't say too much more about that. DM me if you want more details. And of course, crypto and investing, because blockchain. So yeah, that's me. So like I was saying in the intro, why sell your work? Why sell your product? Why do you need to sell yourself? Well, here's the thing, right? You're selling all the time without even realizing it. You know what I mean? Like when you think of sales, it's not like, sleazy used car salesman going like, hey, like, let me make a buck off of this guy. No, it's not that blatant. Like, for example, you could be trying to convince your friend to come see a movie with you. That's selling. You're meeting new people for the first time. You want to make a good first impression. That's selling. Your resume, that's selling. You don't have to say a word, but that's still selling, right? Because you're selling yourself in paper form. Getting a promotion. Why do you deserve the promotion? Well, this is why I deserve the promotion for reasons A, B, and C. Marketing your product or project. Even when you're going to be doing your demo for, when the judging happens, that's selling. You having a compelling demo, why the judges should care, why you guys are awesome. That's selling, right? So a lot of what selling is, people need kind of like an easy way to understand what you're proposing and what you're all about, right? So we'll kind of go step by step. Actually, you know what? One thing I would like to do, so in the chat, at any point, feel free to just hit me with questions. I'm happy to stop and just answer and to go into more depth if you guys want to know more. We don't have that much time, but if there's something that's like burning on your mind, I'm happy to address it. But yeah, step one. I would say this is actually the most important step. This is understanding what you even want and why, right? Because, understanding the why leads to understanding the how and, what, right? So, for example, a lot of you guys are students, so maybe you're looking for an internship, maybe you're looking for a new job, maybe you even want to start a startup, right? But what I would say to you is, okay, well, why? Why do you want an internship, right? Why do you want to start a startup? What are you hoping to achieve? What do you even want, right? And I would say that's actually a pretty deep rabbit hole in itself. And I would say this is if you could take nothing away from this kind of like presentation, I would say it's that, right? If you understand what you're going for and you have very solid reasons for why, I think everything will make sense to you very shortly. Like, sorry, everyone you talk to will be able to make sense of what you're doing. So let me give you an example. So notice how in my intro I mentioned that I was a, I was a touring metal drummer. Okay, you might think, okay, well that's super random. You studied CS, you have a software consultancy. Why are you trying to go on tour? Why do you care about drumming? Why do you care about all that stuff? Like it seems so irrelevant, and you can't make money off of it. So obviously, I would need a strong why. So here's some examples of why. Well, number one, I want to make something out of my skills as a musician. I'm pretty good at drums, but I didn't feel like, just playing local shows in front of 5 to 10 people was satisfying enough. Like I wanted, like a real audience, and I wanted to accomplish something, right? I wanted to like go travel the world. I want to experience like a new life, meet new people. But I would say the most important thing was I knew that this was something that I would always regret if I didn't go for it, right? Um, and like I think that's kind of how I came to that conclusion that, hey, like this is my why, and this is why it's super important for me to pursue this, even though, I might be pursuing like a CS degree or whatever else. So once you have your why, maybe actually I'll go a little deeper into how you can discover this why. Um, One useful mental model is the idea of divergence, which is you creating a lot, and then convergence, which is stripping it down until you have very few. So, obviously you can't do 10 different things. You can't be an astronaut. You can't be a football player. You can't be a king. You know what I mean? Like you gotta like pick one, and you have to really focus, right? So, one really useful resource that I would recommend for you guys, you should check out, well, you can Google this, check out the self-authoring program by Jordan Peterson. I know this guy gets a lot of flack and he's very controversial, but I think that resource is very, very good, and it's apolitical. What it's all about is you documenting, what your life was like, what you want to see out of your life, spending a lot of time on the why of your life. And the why of your life is also known as your dharma, right? Once you understand that, you have your path, you have your purpose, everything falls into place, and everything becomes 10 times easier. And then selling just becomes second nature. Step 2, practice empathy. Your job is to uncover what other people's incentives are. So maybe it's not even people, maybe it's like a big organization, or maybe it's a smaller group of people, or maybe it's like your mom or your dad, because you're trying to convince them to buy you a car for your birthday. You know what I mean? So like at the end of the day, what is empathy, right? Like empathy is understanding the other person's position and understanding what they want, right? So forget about what you want for a second. Understand, for the other person, they're kind of subconsciously asking themselves the whole time, hey, what's in it for me, right? Similar to how you think of your own interests. You're like, well, why should I talk to this person? Why should I go for this degree? Why should I go for this job? What's in it for me, right? So when you're talking to the other party, some important things to consider is your job is to gather info, and you're trying to understand where they're coming from. So how do you do that? It's this concept called active listening. The kind of like crude way of thinking about it is just shut up and listen, right? Like you hold your judgments back, don't interrupt them, ask them a lot of questions, paraphrase what they're saying, so that the other party feels like, hey, like this person is really trying to understand me, and I appreciate that. So I feel more comfortable with this person, so I'm happy to divulge more information. And you can obviously ask more questions to dig deeper and deeper, so that you can kind of like understand their intentions. Hope that's not too abstract. Do you guys have any questions so far? Feel free to throw them in the chat if so. No? Okay. Guess it all makes sense so far. Sweet. All right, next thing. Step 3, create win-win scenarios. Okay, so what does that mean? There's this one quote from the Bible. I'm not Christian, but I think it's a very true. Give and you shall receive. So you've probably all heard of the concept of karma, right? So what does that mean? It means that if you want something, you should be prepared to give something in return. And that's not to say that every single interaction should be transactional, but sometimes you can give something and not expect anything in return. Sometimes people will give to you and they won't expect anything in return for you. But at the same time, you should always try to think of how you can give to others, how you can help, right? Why? Because at the end of the day, your reputation is everything. If people know you as a bad person, word will spread that like you're an asshole and no one will want to work with you, no one will want to help you, no one will want to give you a shot, right? However, on the other hand, if you're an awesome person and you're a sweetheart and you're actively going out of your way to help people, uh, the word will spread there too, right? People will know, like, oh yeah, like he's great, he'll help you out. Like, don't worry about it. Like, he's a really nice guy. Like, don't like he's great, right? And then by virtue of that, you'll attract bigger and better things for you overall. Um, how do you do this? Well, kind of goes back to the last step, right? If you understand what other people want and you understand their incentives, you can kind of like implicitly or explicitly propose a trade as long as it's like fair for you and them. So, this is kind of like negotiation, for example, right? For example, let's say you get a job offer and you're trying to sell yourself so you can get higher base salary. Instead of making 100K, you want to make 120, right? So yes, the other party does lose money from like giving you more, but for example, when you're negotiating, you can say, look, I know you guys like, well, in your head you might be thinking, okay, well, look, they really want me to join. They think I'm going to be a great employee. I know I can deliver a lot of value in this role. I know I can do great things for that company. So I think it'll be a win-win if I say, hey, instead of 100,000, I want 120,000. But if you can give me this offer, I will sign right away, and there's no bullshit for you anymore. Like you got me. Like the deal's closed, it's done. I'm happy to join right after that. So what's happening here is, okay, well, I want a 20K increase, but for the other party, they want to hire me really badly, and they don't want me to keep fighting and look elsewhere. They just want to like seal the deal because they need me. So that's kind of like the more like transactional trade example. Something that's more implicit is, maybe, for example, you might mentor someone later, and this. Okay, so real life example. One of our engineers, I actually mentored him back when he was in second year. I was helping him out with Waterloo Works, the whole job hunting aspect, everything like that. By the way, I'm also happy to review resumes. So if you guys want to hit me up for that, hit me up on Discord. I'm happy to review anything if you guys want advice there. But I was just helping him. I honestly didn't ask for anything in return, right? I just want to help out because other people help me, and paying it forward is always good, right? But a few years later, I start hypotenuse, and I'm in a tricky situation where I'm like, oh fuck, like we have all these clients, they need help, and I'm like dead short staffed, right? Like I don't know any other engineers that can help me. Oh wait, hey, like there's this kid I helped out before. I'm gonna hit him up and see if maybe he wants to do work. I asked him, and like no hesitation. Yeah, dude, like yeah, I'll do anything. Like, yeah, just put me on. Like, I promise I'll make you proud. And now he's like one of our best, most loyal engineers. So like, like that's when you give, you receive, right? So that's kind of like that principle without even me realizing it. That's kind of what happened. Okay, and next thing. Oh. All right, step 4, building long-term relationships. So what does that mean exactly? In kind of like business and in life and in work, like you are going to meet a lot of people and you're going to work with a lot of people. Um, and a big part of it is the relationships that you have with them. Sometimes they're more like professional relationships, sometimes they're more personal, right? And if you are always keeping their interests in mind and you're doing good things for them, they'll naturally want to help you out too. And if they don't, probably toxic people you should stay away from anyway. Usually, a lot of the best long-term relationships are mutually beneficial, right? Like it's always give and take. You get some, they get some from you. You know, it's great, right? And I think at the end of the day, um, I've been like hammering this in for you guys. Empathy is key, right? Always remember what they want. Do your best to help them get what they want, even if it's someone who can't really help you out at that time. You never know where they're going to be in, like 5 years or 10 to 20 years. I'll give you one example. I remember I was doing a hackathon. It was the very first YC hacks, and there was this kid. He was in high school. He was sitting right next to me, and he brought like a whole bunch of stuff in like a cardboard box, and it was like medical testing equipment, and it was like like stuff to do with blood testing. It was like very strange, and I looked at him doing his hack, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like this kid is building like a blood testing thing on his own. Like, hey, like how old are you? It's like I'm in high school. What? Like seriously? It's nuts. And this was back in 2014. And then I looked at his LinkedIn recently, like maybe so it's like 7 years later. This dude has a company of 50 people. Not bad for someone who is just in high school. So you never know you know who will end up where and who can help you and who can't, right? So um, concretely, some things you can do to build out long-term relationships. One thing I really like doing, they're called quarterly catch-ups. So a quarter is basically just 3 months, for those that don't know. So what you can do is just say, hey, once a quarter, can we just do like a Zoom call for half an hour? It's very like low commitment. If that's like a really great way to like touch base with people, just as you go throughout your career, and to just stay in touch with people. And as the years go by, hey, maybe they're doing something really interesting. Maybe you're doing something really interesting. Maybe you would even end up hiring the other person, or they might end up hiring you, or you can work together, or they invest in you. Like you never know what could happen, right? So, and then another concrete example is make the effort to go see people in person. Try to keep a mental note of where everyone is living and where everyone is based. And when you're in town, go grab lunch with them. Go get coffee with them. One good book I would highly, highly recommend you guys reading is one called Never Eat Alone. Really, really great book on like scummy way of calling it is networking, but I think it's more about building those like long-term relationships where they're very mutually beneficial. So yeah, check that one out. Never Eat Alone. All right. So concretely, what does this mean for you guys that are navigating the tech world? Maybe some of you guys are earlier on in your career, maybe some of you guys are about to graduate. So what I'll say, some things I've learned in my career, just going about it, is that a lot of technical problems in the real world are actually just people problems. So for example, let's say an engineer writes a bunch of code and then leaves the company, right? But the company ended up, like firing that engineer, or the engineer left on bad terms, right? Now they have a bad relationship. Now you come in as a new dev and you're like, oh, hey, who wrote this? And the company says, oh, it was this guy that quit. It's like, oh, well, can I contact him? What's the deal? Like, I don't understand what's going on with this code base. Rather not spend all this time trying to decipher it, rather just get some help. And they say, no, yeah, we didn't, there's no way for us to contact him because we burned bridges with that guy. There you go, right? So what is considered a technical problem is actually a people problem. That's just one example. So in real life, you cannot get away with just being only good at programming. Like you got to be a good communicator. You got to be a good person, right? If you want to make the big bucks and be truly successful in your career. Because, sadly, even if you're the best programmer in the world, you cannot market a product on your own. You cannot sell a product on your own. You can't do everything yourself. You need to work with people, and you have to be easy to work with for other people to want to work with you. Because I'll tell you guys this: the best people have their pick of the litter when it comes to who to work with. So if you have any kind of like red flag, or you're like difficult to work with, they have a line out the door when it comes to people that want to work with them. So if you do want to work with the best, you got to be one of the best when it comes to communication. All right, and that's about it. Any questions? Feel free to drop it in the chat below. Oh, dude, I love your course notes. Those are not mine. Those are Anthony Zhang's, but I'll pass along the compliment. He's also going to be judging, so keep an eye out for that. People clown on Comic Sans, but the tea is that it is the easiest to read. Yeah, inclined to agree. I think as well, I did kind of fuck up, and I chose like a bad grayish color. So that plus black, probably not the most legible. But oh well. I'm glad you still feel that way. Can't get coffee with you. Yeah, sure. I'll drop my email. Feel free to hit me up. Calvin@hypotenuse.ca. Company creates 2 jobs for developers and 2 for testers. Sorry, I lost the context there. Not sure what that's referring to. Yo, what's up, Slava? Slava's one of our senior engineers. What are some good ways of getting better at / practicing communication skills? Okay, so I mentioned this briefly, but it's the idea of divergence and convergence. So one good way to work on your communication skills, start off by being as verbose as you can. So say as much as you humanly can. Just like, try to get everything in there, be as thorough as you can, try to squeeze out every detail. And then, so that's the divergence part where you're coming up with a lot. And then the convergence part is where you cut it down, right? So let's say now, you're thinking of what you're going to say to your boss. You have 3 paragraphs. Okay, maybe it's a little too extra. So now you cut it down to maybe like, 4 lines or 3 lines. So that's one good way of taking all your thoughts and then being more concise with them. Because I think the best communicators are able to say a lot in very few words. Something I'm still working on, to be honest, is clearly evidenced by this presentation. All right, a deal. Let's see. Engineer leaves the company. Company creates 2 jobs. I see. Still not totally sure. I'll just take that as a joke, I guess. Yeah. Any other questions? Anybody? No? Alrighty. That's pretty much it. Yeah, so yeah, that's my email again. Feel free to hit me up if you guys want to chat or you have any further questions. Also, I'm happy to take a look and review or critique any other resumes if you guys are interested. No problem. My pleasure. Can you explain what Hypotenuse does? Yeah, so we're a software consultancy. We focus in 3 main areas, so web, ML, and blockchain. We mainly cater to early stage startups. Sorry, I'm kind of blanking out. It's kind of late. Right now we are a team of 15. We're aggressively hiring for co-op and also full-time. So feel free to hit me up, send me a resume if you guys are interested. Let's see what else. Yeah, I can drop our GitHub as well if you guys want to take a look at some of our blockchain projects, because I know there's been a lot of interest in that. The ones I'll draw your attention to, take a look at AlgoSwap, which is basically like a Uniswap on Algorand. Algorand is actually one of the other sponsors of this event. So we work with them. What is a Uniswap? It's an automated market maker. Feel free to take a look at that. We built everything end-to-end, protocol design all the way up to code. It's still kind of like incomplete, but just because we never bothered to complete it, we got other projects in, so we got too busy. But yeah, does that kind of answer the question? We build cool shit for startups. Is all of our stuff public? I would say mainly the blockchain stuff. A lot of the projects that we are working on are kind of like stealthy startups or ones where we've signed like a hard NDA. So can't say too much, but the blockchain stuff is usually all open source. So yeah, they're all in the GitHub if you want to take a look. Some other projects I'll draw your attention to. We built an Oracle's framework for Dfinity. We also built out a lot of UI stuff for. Yeah, you can just email me. Just send me your resume. Yeah. So we built out some UI stuff for a faucet/geyser for Ampleforth. We're working with this other really cool metaverse startup. They're called highstreet.market. They're pretty cool. They're actually about to do their launch. Not financial advice, but yeah. What programming languages, stacks, and DB knowledge do you look for when a dev is applying for the job at Hype? Okay, good question. I would say for us, we are actually pretty tech agnostic. The most important thing that we're looking for is, are you a nice person? Do you have a sense of humor? And are you smart and willing to pick up stuff really quickly? That's what matters to us the most. So for example, let's say you work on a completely different domain than anything we've done. So like one example is IoT or embedded. Nothing to do with anything we're doing, but hey, if you built something like end to end, or you've like grinded it out at like a startup or something like that, where you work long hours and you built the product like from fucking scratch and it was built well and you know what the fuck you're doing, that's what we're looking for. If you can do that, you can learn web like no problem, man. So yeah, hope that answers the question. Anything else, y'all? Happy to answer. Comments, thoughts, concerns. Like, comment, subscribe. I mean, I wouldn't say basic knowledge. Like, we would expect some breadth. Like, by breadth, I mean like you've taken a product kind of like end to end, or you've worked in a job where you've built out something like very thoroughly end to end, and you like know exactly what's going on every step because you built that whole thing. So I would say like that's probably like the best proxy for what we're looking for. But at the end of the day, if you're good at what you do and you can learn fast, hey, you should apply. Anything else? All right, I will take that as a no. We'll just like shameless plug and also say that we do have a blockchain prize. We call it the Big DApp Energy Prize. And what is that? That's for the best / most funniest blockchain to hack. So we are looking for technically challenging and fun. So if you guys want to check that out, if you win, you get 420.69 Doge per person, and you get an interview with Hype Labs. So yeah, get on those blockchain hacks if you're interested in winning some Doge. Thanks, Julia. Alrighty. Earlier you said resume critiques. Are you doing any currently, or is there anywhere to post to get a proper critique before applying for the job? You can either email me directly, or you could just post in the Discord channel. That's fine too. All right. Yeah, there's a Discord channel. Message Julia if you want to know how to get in. Okay, that's pretty much it. All right, thanks everyone for listening, and have a great rest of the hackathon. Get some sleep. Staying up 2 nights in a row is a bit overrated. 1 is probably okay. Take care of yourselves. But yeah, Calvin at highpontnews.ca if you want to reach me. Wow, I cannot spell. Okay. You want to reach me. So, all right. Thanks, guys. Peace out.